Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Grind, a podcast all about content creation. Today, I'm your host, Alec Bobko, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Chris Lepak.
He thinks I'm lovely.
It's true.
Well, we've been on hiatus for a bit because E3 kind of threw us for a loop there with our content.
Or drove a train straight into it, however you want to describe it, really.
That might be a better way to describe that. So we're making our grand return with friend of the show, Jacob from Busch League Gaming. How are you doing tonight, Jacob?
Fantastic. So excited to be here.
Dude, we're stoked to have you here, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had this in the works for a while, too.
I think so. Yeah, and both of you have been on Busch League content, so it's like this is comfort, man. This is where I want to be right now.
Yeah.
Drink, sit back, relax, whatever you want to
Exactly.
do. Easy.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm ready for it. I have my drink already.
Ooh, what you drinking?
Oh, yeah.
I'm drinking a little Jameson Black Barrel tonight this evening, and I have the bottle ready if I need a refill.
Got the J-Mo. That's my kind of man right there, baby. That's my kind of man.
Not sponsored, but Jameson, if you're out there,
not yet.
Hit me up.
But yeah, exactly. It's like not sponsored yet, but yeah. Jameson, hit our boy up, and then also me.
Yes, both of us. Also, I'm still hoping you get that.
All three of us.
Get that PBR sponsorship. I'm waiting on that still. I was advocating for that.
I'm working on it, man. I'm gonna beat them down into a sponsorship. I will wear them down until they have no choice but to say yes.
I love PBR, by the way.
I unironically love it. That's the great thing about it.
So, Jacob, for those that might not know you, why don't you introduce yourself to the community?
So I am Jacob Busch of Busch League Gaming.
Why they call it that?
You know what? It was not my choice, actually. Ryan Scalf, one of my co-hosts, he thought of the name, and I was like, sure, let's go with it. It's self-deprecating, which that's what we're all about over there. It's a very Busch League show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we review games, we talk about games. It's all gaming focused, and it's been a journey. It started around the same time you guys streamed and started Waypoint. It was a pandemic production, as I've heard people coin it. And yeah, it's just evolved into what it is today. And I love content creation. It brought us to you two and Waypoint in general, where I've met so many cool people because of Busch League Gaming, and I continue to meet them. So that's what we do. We talk about games, we review games, and try to bring some levity to the situations too, and have some comedy elements. So that's it.
Yeah, if you want to see what they're like, I was on their Ratchet and Clank 2016 review, and Chris was on their Star Wars Squadrons review.
Yes, I was. It was super good. Definitely check it out. Those boys know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, we actually, and this is funny. We're trying to. It's still in the works. We haven't had like our full BLG meeting about it yet, but we're going to try to review games a little less formally these days, too. I think with both of you, we had a numbered score at the end, and we still might. But after talking to more game developers and people from the industry, we've been humbled to the point of like, can we sit here and review games? And like, we're still going to, because like we review for the ordinary gamer, the layperson. But in development, like we appreciate it so much more now after talking to the industry. And our reviews are going to be a little bit more humbled and appreciative, because game development, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And it continues to be nuts. It's hard. So you might see a little bit more discussion and conversation-based things around games and less reviews with Busch League content moving forward. Again, it's tentative. We're working through we drained our bank recently, which was not fun to do. We're kind of recording at the whim of time. So Busch League content's up in the air of the direction, but at the end of the day, it's video game content.
Yeah.
Now, something that was kind of interesting, we've interviewed streamers on here, video podcasters, but You guys are you're the first one that we had that started only doing audio podcasts. What was kind of the decision that made you decide to just go audio only at first?
Great question. Not wanting to mess with video, like just the complexities of video. And trust me, I'm happy we didn't. Like I am struggling through this video situation. I was telling Alba before we started that my laptop, like a 10-year-old laptop, it barely can edit anything. It can barely record. But starting off, I am a podcast consumer, like audio only, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of producing to that standpoint of like, yeah, let's stick to audio. And then also I was editing very heavily when it came to audio. And you can do that with audio because it's like, hey, I just said 20 times in this episode already. That didn't exist in our early years of Busch League. And it didn't exist for you, Chris. And Alibaba did exist for you because we were doing video. But
Yeah.
I cut like I made it very lean to the point of like it took like 4 hours for a 45-minute episode because I was taking out pauses, anything, any mouth cracks, anything. And we just came to the decision that let's stick to authenticity when we go into video. And just it's been so freeing. Technical stuff aside, going to video has been freeing because it's just like this is us. I say a lot. Ryan smacks a lot. Nick breathes into the mic. Like all these things, we've just accepted. That I'm not this shade I throw at
One
them
of
on
them's
the
fucking
episode. So this is
loud. I can't stand him.
one of them goes like this. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you have your audio pick that up, but
I
it's
think
the
it did.
smacking.
It did a little bit. Yeah.
I got that.
So it started off as just like I've loved podcasts for a decade now, and I wanted to produce to that, and also I wanted to produce to like I'm that weird person who searches like 12 minutes review on a podcast, and I just want to listen to, hey, what did someone say on my drive into work? I drive like a 2 hour round trip every day, or I used to, and that's just what the content I wanted to start creating for people is that hey, these are three friends talking about a game, sometimes four, and this is it. It's audio. Now we had requests and we had people say, hey, you should do video. You should do video. And we jumped right in, built a studio, and now we do video content. And it's all new to us. We none of us have any background in this. We don't stream, so we're kind of stumbling our way through it. But we've loved doing video.
So before, I'm glad you brought up the studio because I did want to ask about that. But it's like before I think I push that button. I just love your comment of being like, yeah, video. Just didn't want to mess with it at first because on the surface it feels like such a normal thing. Like everyone consumes YouTube content at this point, right? Like, but then it's like realizing the idea to make a video podcast, something as simple as just adding video to it is suddenly such a huge thing because it's like, well, everyone has to have something that's capable of video. Somebody needs to be able to record it all. Then we have to edit that because editing video is a completely different process than editing audio, and just all of these things for for such a simple little thing. And so I love the idea of just being like, we're just not going to do it at first. Like we're just that's later, if ever.
It genuinely, and it's like we we knew that was a beast that we didn't want to tackle yet. And honestly, it was a pandemic production. You guys understand this. Is this sustainable? Are we going to keep doing this when our lives go back to normal? And I think we all can agree that we are. But it's kind of this feeling it out thing. Like, are we going to invest into this? And yeah, here we are. We went with the studio.
So
I'm not there today, by the way. Clearly.
Great
it's all right.
backdrop.
I
Told you
do
that
love
would
his
enjoy.
backdrop though. You got Star Wars. I see Chance the Rapper. A couple
It's
Blink
yeah,
182
my
records.
record
21
record wall.
Pilots. Love it,
Yep.
man. Absolutely love it. Um, so as far as the studio, then, so just like deciding to get into video content, was that just like, hey, a bunch of people have been asking us about it, like maybe we give this a shot? Like, what was sort of the like the thought process leading into that?
Yeah, there were a couple people who brought it up to like, hey, like do video, do video. Or the other thing was that why not do video? Like you're already recording. Like I'm not heavily editing our video. If anything, I zoom in occasionally on something that's said or
Mhm.
anything like that. But it was more of like, okay, once we understand the technical stuff and get that figured out, why not was the question? Because it's just another platform we can reach people. And yeah, I think it was it was kind of that thing of just like someday we will go to video, and we just decided why not.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle of just like it's somewhat starting from scratch on YouTube. It's like we've been building up an audience on podcast platforms for a year, and then you post a 1 hour podcast to YouTube, and they hate it. They hate the algorithm hates long
Mhm.
videos that a few people watch.
Yep.
So it's kind of been this like reset of our mindset of like, hey, back to square one on this platform. We're doing video now. It's taking a lot of work. It's taking effort, but it's kind of just like it's okay. We're back to square one. It's humbling a bit, and I don't know. It's fun too, just to be a little bit more creative. We started, and I know you guys have messed around with this too, but just doing quick little edits for shorts, like YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
It's just like stupid stuff, but it's fun, and that this whole journey has been what's fun, and let's keep doing that. So yeah, video it made sense in that regard that this is just another layer of fun for us.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you kind of already answered like one of the pre-made questions I had going
Yeah.
into this, because it's like I'd seen you guys' video space. It's awesome, by the way. Like it looks really,
Mhm.
really good. I feel like we don't need to say this, but please go watch their stuff. Like you got to see the space that they have. But I was like, is that one of their houses, or do they have a studio? So you guys have a studio.
Well, so it's not a house. It's funny thing is, so Ryan is actually my uh, cousin. We call it cousin brothers, and that takes explanation when you say something like that.
Yeah, it
We're
does.
not we're not
Yeah.
technically cousin brothers by Southern standards. We just call ourselves that because it's the closeness. But my wife is cousins with his wife. Both of their moms are twins, so there's this like they're closer than cousins, but not sisters. So we just call ourselves cousin brothers, and it's technically cousin brother-in-laws. Write it down, Chris. It's complicated.
Hold
Nonetheless,
on, I'm studying for the test. Don't worry. Hold on, professor.
it's dude, you're ready with prop comedy over here. I'm all about that. Here, I've
It's
got an
important
inhaler. If
notes.
anything, if I
I
get
t- I t-
nervous, I
I
can.
take hella notes already, and so I was like, I just have this nearby. This would be funny.
Nonetheless, so Ryan and I are in-laws in some form or fashion, cousins, cousin brothers, whatever you want to define it as. And our family owns a testing laboratory, and of that laboratory are these storage spaces that is just like
Radioactive
off
spiders.
close. Honestly, these spaces, you should have seen the space before. Stained ceiling, holes in the walls, it was a gross space. And we just approached my father-in-law, his uncle-in-law, and we were like, "Hey, we know these spaces aren't used, and we would really appreciate if you let us clean one up. It's going to be a much nicer, and we could put a studio in it." And they were like, "Sure." So we don't
Awesome.
have the barriers of like rent. Like it's a family-owned company, so it's like
Oh, that's
this
awesome.
is just space. We improved the space. We did put a lot of money into the space because it took a lot to kind of remodel it, but yeah, now it's our studio, and it was sparked by the fact that we were recording out of this space. This is my office at home. This office is going away because this is an announcement we have actually announced on the BLG podcast. I'm expecting our second child. So this is my
Yay.
second son's room,
Eee.
and my wife's I think like 4 months pregnant right now,
Nice.
and so we had to
Congratulations.
really thank you, appreciate it. We had to reassess where are we recording in the future, and we just decided let's go all in and build a studio. So
Hell yeah.
it's not a normal circumstance. There is some convenience to recording at home. I love recording at home, but the studios, there's just energy to it. If either of you are ever by chance, and Chris, actually know you sometimes, I think you mentioned Scottsdale sometimes or something like that, your wife, come to Arizona, come record with us. Like recording in the studio, there's just energy to it. Uh,
I'd
we've
love to.
got we've got a mini fridge full of White Claws. We've got a couch.
Say less.
Ooh.
And it's just been like, again, we've kind of assessed what's funny or no, what's fun,
Mhm.
and the studio was kind of the next step in that fun factor of just our space to record in.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
I thought I heard you say something, Malik.
no.
I
I
just
would
kind of
say
sat there
that's
for a minute, dead air.
Dead
good little
air's
pregnant
cool. I'm cool
pause.
with dead air.
Yeah. Um, that's awesome that you guys are able to make that big step of actually having a studio. Like, not many smaller content creators can actually say that they really have a studio.
It wasn't earned either. I want to make that very clear. It was just like, why not? Like, I think one thing
Right?
we
You
were
gotta take
approached.
what you can get, though.
Well, like I think it also one misconception. I think I said this on our 1 year anniversary episode. The studio isn't a signal of like like modern success, like what most people define as success.
Mm-hmm.
It was success in our mind of like, this is what's fun. Like
Mhm.
that's the goal, to reiterate, is like, it's just fun. And a studio sometimes seems like, oh wow, they must have X and Y subscribers or this many listeners or this many sponsors. No, this was self-funded. We have some Patreon support, like that helped fund some things, but at the end of the day, this was funded by the three of us. So it was just a decision that we decided, like, let's just pour into this thing and see where it takes us. But at the end of the day, like, we had fun doing it, right?
And that's so important too. Like I get asked by like family members and stuff all the time. It's like, hey, like how much money are you making off of like your podcast and stuff? I was like, the podcast we make no money off of. Like nothing we do at Waypoint is
Mm-mm.
monetized. This is a purely passion project right now.
Stay tuned.
It's the
And
opposite.
can't spoil that. But but I mean we're going to monetize something. I feel
1
like
year
that's
anniversary coming up.
we've mentioned that before. And we got some stuff on the way for that. But there's still something. It's like even though it's not necessarily a sign of success, and then it's like, wow, they have sponsors or like 10 million viewers or whatever, so they own their own studio. I think there's still something gratifying in being able to look at this physical space that you guys have that's dedicated
Mm-hmm.
specifically to making something like that, and just kind of being able to have that moment of it was like, look what we've made so far, and I think that's really really cool.
Yeah, and it's super, and we're super intentional about it when it comes to content creation because it is a very discouraging space. So we try to write things down, we try to do physical things, we try to like remind ourselves of where we've come from, what we because you have to keep doing that. Like keeping like staying humble through it, but still recognizing like, yeah, we worked with this person and that's exciting and it's okay to be excited about that. Because yeah, it's in the other vein of it, it's like, yeah, that we worked super hard on that video and I got like 10 views. Like it's that sort of like roller coaster of emotions where you take your victories where you can. And sometimes those victories are created by us. Like it's like this studio simply as we chose to, and you have to just kind of like own that and lean into it.
Now, as far as
Oh,
just having like a space like that, though too, like for me, it's like I know you mentioned like being able to create from home is super super awesome because I mean you don't have to go anywhere. It's everything's available readily and that sort of thing. But I have that sort of weird thing to where like when work from home started, uh, I hated it because and I mean I learned
mhm.
later that I guess this is like an ADHD thing as well, but it's hard for me to sort of like dissociate between the two when I'm at home and my brain can't essentially shift like from work to home modes and back and just has like this weird sort of blend between it. And I just got nothing done for like a year and a half. I guess I streamed and stuff, but y'all know what I mean. Um, so it's like, do you find that it's like it's like I know you guys are dedicated and really, really intentional about your stuff, but it's like but having a studio and like a dedicated spot that's away from the home and all these sorts of distractions, do you feel like it's getting better because it makes it easier to focus because it's like we have this space for that?
Yeah, compartmentalization. Like it's
Yeah.
huge, and it's like there's studies behind that. Like there's psychological. Like it's really important to a lot of people's can separate leisure and work and entertainment, like those things. That's why like it's not recommended to work out of your bedroom. I remember when I was in college, I was studying out of my bedroom, created a very toxic space for my brain that I couldn't relax. Like the space I was supposed to sleep, I couldn't relax because I was working on homework in that same space. Same thing goes for your content creation. Though it's like the fun is the goal of it, it does kind of like create this mutual space of when you walk into it, you know what you're doing here. Like this is what we do here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you're completely right, Chris. Like it's being able to separate those things, and in general, separating things in your life, I think is pretty important. Especially like you said, I think certain people are predisposed more to they can do it fine. Like there's some people can do work right out of their bedroom and it's okay. But I'm one of those people that also can't do that. And actually, speaking of which, as this is, I work from home about 50% of the time for my day job, and I'm converting our laundry room into part laundry room, part studio slash office because I needed that
Jeez.
space. I didn't want to put a desk in my bedroom, and I have two kids, and I wanted them to have separate rooms at this time. They might share rooms someday, so I might get this back, but compartmentalization is huge for me. Like I'm in the same boat. I
Mhm.
don't do well when I'm operating in spaces where other things take place. So yeah, if we ever do a recording from my house again, I'll be in the laundry room / office studio.
Laundry room, office studio. That I mean, yeah, it's like if I could not be in my living room, that'd be awesome. But I mean, so sometimes that's just the way it goes.
Takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know this is kind of diving back to more like the editing side of things. You were saying that took you a while when you're editing audio. I know a lot of people, the program people use was Audacity, and that's a big no-no right now because what was it, like ransomware or something like that was in the update?
I think they just were stealing your information, right? That's they're spying on you.
Stealing information and then like clearly selling it though too.
Which, quite frankly, most other companies are doing right now as we speak.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's a problem.
So I quickly,
but I wasn't using that. Is that the question?
I was, yeah. I mean, basically leading to what program were you using to edit audio?
Dude, we are so. Again, the studio gives us a different view. We are so unprofessional when it comes to every aspect of Busch League. Dude, I was recording out of GarageBand. I still do use GarageBand. So it's like I'm using free software that's just like there for me. We use iMovie for our YouTube videos.
That I was not prepared for.
Dude, it's like, and there are constraints. Like, there are so many constraints to what we do. And we did a full podcast. This was back when we were doing audio only. On the book is called Ask Iwata. It's Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo, legendary president. He had a quote in there, and it resonates so much for Busch League. It's constraint is the mother of creativity. I might be butchering it, but it's along those lines. So basically, whenever we run into these constraints, it forces us just to get creative with what we're doing. And I'm happy that we've had like kind of this start of really crappy software. Like, we still are using really crappy software. I can't wait to upgrade. My computer cannot run OBS. My computer cannot run Albob, what's the editing software you use? I think I reached out to you.
DaVinci Resolve.
I downloaded that. Computer was just crashing trying to edit a video. So like, we are at the capacity of constraints for Busch League when it comes to my laptop, which I edit everything on. So yeah, we are still at the ground floor of editing. I don't edit audio anymore. The iMovie is like, I found out recently that I can only do 2 different like lines of video or anything editing related. So it's like, if you want to stack anything, go ahead and render that and bring something back in and now put it on top of it. So I'm learning this video situation is way more complicated than I anticipated. But yeah, we're like basic as possible. GarageBand, iMovie, and that's how we make Busch League content.
Hey, I mean, it's still quality content, sounds and looks great, so yeah, that's good on you. Good on you. I'm
a stickler for sound. That is one thing I have a really like. That's one thing I constantly upgrade our mics because I'm that weird person who cannot listen to a podcast if there are weird noises going on. I just turn it off. And I try to that. There's an actual name for it. I don't remember what it is.
Audiophile.
Audiophile, maybe. There's like a technical like phobia or something like that, I think.
Oh, okay.
But that's been me from day one. So you'll hear, like I said, you'll hear somewhat that, like, I don't want to say professionalism, but like that intentionality of like, okay, this audio doesn't sound like I'm recording from a laptop, but it's still like I'm working with what we have right now. So, yeah, I think I'm also pretty like type A when it comes to stuff. So I can't to the point of like, sometimes it's immobilizing. It's hard to put content out if I don't feel like it's to the level that I want it to be. But yeah, like I said, we just make it work.
Yeah, I honestly feel you on that, because one of my goals at the beginning of the year was to put out more short form content, like the kind of 5 to 10 minute kind of thing. But I struggled and pretty much forced myself to put out that Slobs versus OBS video because I told myself,
watched it, great video.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I threw that together in a few hours because I forced myself to do it. And
yeah,
that just kind of drove me to, I don't say hating that kind of content, but it's just like, kind of like how people say like in like school for book reports, or like you have to read it. If you're forced to read it, you'll hate it. But if you do it yourself, and kind of
It's
do
so
it.
funny that you mentioned that though too, because it's like if I'm 100% honest, like a lot of the stuff that we do for Waypoint is really simple to edit, because I mean it's we record it all, we'll cut off like the beginning and end, like whatever we got,
Slap an
stingers
intro,
at
slap an
the
outro.
yeah, exactly. And I got to the point where, because I used to edit a lot of them. I edit almost none of them now, and because I went to the boys, I was like, I hate doing this. Like, I just don't like doing it, and it's not because it's difficult; it's because it's mind-numbingly boring to me. Like, I just like I don't want to do this. It takes forever to render. But then you talk about like that short form and stuff over on like my RoboPack channel on YouTube. I've been doing more short form stuff over there. Game reviews. Just did like a whole thing on the Halo Infinite tech preview, which is rad. I can't wait for that game. Um, that's some of the most fun I've had video editing in years. Like putting that Halo
See,
video together, man. That was so
and
much fun.
what I was actually leading to was the travel vlog that I edited. Like that was
Ah,
fun
yes.
to make, filming all that stuff and just hanging out. And then actually editing that. Like I didn't realize this, but I edited that thing for like 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I had
Okay.
a blast during it all. Like I did not hate doing any of that. So it's one of those like it kind of rekindled that like um love for the short form content. It's like stuff that I want to do, not that I think I kind of learned that I want to do stuff that interests me and not like the informative like teaching people how to do things. That's not me. So,
I,
uh,
and though you did it great, and to both of your short form content has been fantastic. Chris, you've been doing it
thank
for
you.
some time now, and I think Albob, was that your first video of doing short form content for
This
yourself?
yeah, Slobs versus OBS, yes.
Yeah, and like it's an area that I also would like to get into. Again, when this transition to video happened, we talked about, okay, right now we actually do occasionally, if there's a snippet of our podcast, we'll cut that out and post that with like a little bit more editing and more kind of intentionalness to that specific section of the content. Too, because like again, not everybody wants to listen to or watch an hour long podcast, but maybe they'll watch
Hmm.
a 10-minute discussion on something they want to listen to. So
Yeah.
we actually have been uploading some short form content. But Alba, speaking to when you liked actually editing it, though I said we stopped editing, I stopped editing 4 hour podcasts and audio. I loved it. I genuinely loved editing it. And
Hmm.
this whole journey has been, wow, I actually like doing this. I love making thumbnails. I absolutely love making thumbnails. It's stupid, but
Yeah.
I love doing it. And if you look at them, and I think Chris, I put a lot of work into the one that we did for
Oh
Squadrons.
man, that one was so good.
But like it's the the what I actually get out of it, like technically, analytically, the views or whatever it does not equate to how much time I put into it, and I'm okay with it because it's fun. Like putting
Hmm.
this ridiculous amount of time into finding a PNG, or like finding a PNG, like I make this PNG and then I do X and Y and Z to it, and then I make this. My whole thing when I make a YouTube thumbnail, I Google the topic, and a YouTube or Google the topic we're going to be talking about. I look at what everyone did and copied each other. Like everyone just copies the first 10 results are the same press release thumbnail. I hate it. And then I go, how can I be different than that? So Albab, again, to your point, these facets of finding out just this really fun. I just liked editing for some reason. That's new.
Hmm.
I just like making a thumbnail. That's new. Content creation has like opened up so many doors that I didn't think existed for me, because I'm not going too down the rabbit hole, but like I'm a science based person. I studied science things in college. I work in the research field. This is not my wheelhouse, but I love it. Like I found so many facets that I love, and short form content is something that I think you'll see Bush League content going towards, as well as podcast. The podcast is here to stay forever because we enjoy it, but short form content, we all know that's what YouTube loves, and I think I love it. It's just it's going to take some time to really figure out technically. Like our technical setup is very constrained, but I'm excited to go down. And Chris, dude, your content, you've been doing more short form content, I've noticed, and I've loved it. I think that's like Waypoint is like obviously the podcast platform, right? That's where you do your long form content, but then you each individually have your short form content, and I encourage both of you to keep pouring into it because it's great content.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's so funny in sort of disheartening as well because you mentioned it's like it's gonna take time to get to the point where we can make this thing because we have to figure out the technical side of that. There's also just this weird feeling, like going back to the Halo Infinite video that I did. This really weird and sometimes disheartening is not the right word, but it's like when I look down at the clock after it finally finished rendering, I'm in the middle of uploading it, and I was like, "This is an 8.5 minute video. This took me 4 hours." like, like it's so weird
Well,
to think it's like, man, 5 hours of my life to produce this little 6 minute thing.
Did
Like,
you enjoy it?
damn.
Did you enjoy the process?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's so much fun.
And I think that's the perspective you have to have again with content creation. It's like
mhm,
sometimes the reward, the quote unquote popular reward of like views and all this different thing, that can't be the driving metric, at least for us right now, because we're so early on that don't take the joy of those of the editing and of that actual end result based off of quote unquote normal metrics, right? Our metric is did you enjoy it and keep making that because
mhm.
dude, it's hard, but if you're proud of your work, that's the greatest reward right there.
No,
It's a
seriously.
big thing we got at Waypoint as well. Like before we started recording, I mean, you mentioned it's like, wow, the Waypoint team's really grown, and the like whenever we bring new people in, like one of the first things to do is like, hey, if you have like ideas for content that you couldn't or weren't able to make or whatever,
Mhm,
if there's just something that you want to make, please let us know. And a couple of them were like, well, I have this idea, but it's like I don't know if people are gonna be interested or watch that. I was like, yeah, but do you want to make it? Like that's what we're here to
mhm,
do. Like I was like like my favorite thing that we do on Waypoint. It's like outside of the grind because this really feels like at the very least like what originally got us all together was this
mhm.
show.
Yep.
And so that still feels like a central pillar. But my favorite thing to make is this is the Waypoint, our Star Wars discussion show. You know, not just
Mhm.
because I host it. Yeah, maybe it was good. Not just because I host it, because like I love talking about Star Wars, and I think that's the series that does the worst in terms of views on YouTube. But it's like I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm gonna keep making it. Like it's just fun to do.
If you can't make it for yourself, don't make it. Like it's you should be your number and this is where like keep the humble factor in this, but you should be your number one fan of your content. You should be proud of the stuff you put out. And at the end of the day, if
Watch
you
my own
can't
stuff
listen or
all the time.
and
I
like
really do.
there are facets to that as well. It's like not only watching your own stuff allows you to like enjoy it, but also improve. Like you can
Mhm.
sit there and watch something and be like, hey, like audio was weird that week. How do I tweak that? But if you can't enjoy your own content, that's the problem. So the fact that you're like, I just want to make this because that's the motivation. That's what we should be doing. Don't
Mhm.
base it off views, right? This is
Yeah,
what we have
no,
to stop
absolutely
ourselves.
not. Do it.
Like we
Do what makes you happy. Is what you're passionate about, and eventually people come. Like it's like some I say like as Rumblepuck all the time is like, look, I stream what I want to play, and I make videos and the things that I would want to see, and so it's like whenever I sit down and make a video like the Halo Impressions one, I was like, these are my thoughts on it. I'm not seeing a lot of people doing like this sort of format either. It's like this is the kind of content that I want to see, so I'm gonna
yeah.
Thanos it and do it myself.
But also like this is the big caveat as well. It's also okay if they don't come. Like
Yeah,
if there isn't if you don't find your audience necessarily, if you are doing it for the enjoyment of it, you can do this forever. There's nothing stopping you, and
Mhm.
inevitably they will come. But I think as long as we keep our metrics straight of what is the metric of success here, and if it stays fun and enjoyment and growth, you're unstoppable. Like the biggest moments when I feel discouraged and I want to stop Bush League is when I'm looking at the wrong metrics and when I'm looking at the actual technical like that got so many views and blah 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 and like that's hard on me. No, like I had a great time recording that. Remind myself like why did I do that? Why did we play that game? Why did we talk about that game?
Mhm.
And like it's all about keeping that perspective and continuing to keep it because I think it even when you hear about these huge content creators like oh I only got 100,000 views on that episode like that was a bust. You kidding me? Like you've lost perspective at that point. Like
right.
you're
Mhm.
you're making 100,000 like a viewed video like that's what I think we constantly remind ourselves of over here and like we got to encourage each other too. Like we're all in this like grind together. It's not like there is no scenario where your success doesn't mean our success doesn't mean X and Y success. Like we can all like the phrase a rising tide lifts all boats or whatever
Yep.
that thing is. We can all rise together up. And I don't know, man. It's we constantly have this conversation over at Busch League of why do we do this? How do we keep doing it? And I've loved seeing Waypoint grow and do what you guys are doing. And Chris, talk Star Wars, dude. Keep talking Star Wars because you love it and people love it and you will find the audience. But yeah, I don't know. It's all complicated and just I again keeping those metrics straight. What metric matters to you?
Mhm. Yeah, and along those lines, like when we did our E3 content, that was back before we expanded the team, and it was a fun weekend. But man, let me tell you, that Monday after, I was exhausted because I
I can't
recorded
remember the last time I
just
slept that
about
hard.
exactly because I think I recorded most, if not all, of our E3 content. I uploaded it all. I
Most of it.
most of it, yeah. Um, I did a bunch of the TikToks and shorts that were broken out, which, and literally after that, I'm like, we need another editor, like somebody that's kind of their expertise, and that's when our friend Chance came on, and we sent him Chris sent him a DM, and he's actually the one who did the intro for Waypoint, and
Yeah,
Dude,
and then eventually
he's
he also does
killing it.
all of the animation stuff for RoboPack too, which is cool.
you guys that week you put in work. I remember that because I was a bachelor party lake trip. I was on a lake that weekend during
Ooh.
E3 and I
Hell
saw
yeah,
all this
dude.
content rolling out and I go, I'm so glad I don't have a choice not to make content right now because there is an obligation. Sometimes you do feel
Oh
like
yeah.
we have to make something like we got to record this indie direct. We got to talk about it. And like again, that perspective of sometimes it doesn't matter, but I didn't have the choice. Like
Mhm.
the only reason we didn't get Bush League content from is this. We did a 1 hour podcast recapping all of E3.
Yeah.
Um, but like putting in that work and also pushing your like this is what we found too is that pushing yourself to your limits is really fun sometimes. You look back and you go,
Mhm.
dang, like look what we did. And we get that drive from having certain guests on. Like we have this conversation of okay, there's this balance of like screwing around with the three of us just talking about a video game or a subject and just having a good time, but also having like this industry professional on and talking to them and being super nervous and like trying to have questions and it's this balance of there's this growth but also like let's have fun and like that was this last week for us. We just had like two industry professionals on talking about UX and kind of like psychology around video games and we were the most nervous we've been for an episode. But at the end of it, we were just like floored and jacked about it. Like it's these things that can push us to another level that we didn't know we were capable of. That's like again, content creation is enabling that because I don't think if you weren't doing this before, you would just be going to your job and not
Mhm.
having these rewarding things. And I just think I found such a weird um, rewarding factor to content creation that's it's growth and growth feels awesome and your E3 content was awesome and I remember looking at I think it was the shorts or again I don't know TikTok but I know shorts your shorts did really well and it's just cool to see that like editing work and all that work you put in pay off too like that's the kind of balance of
Mhm.
not caring about analytics but also it is rewarding.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think our Xbox conference reaction video is still like the highest viewed thing that
it's
we did, like
at
1.5 thousand
1900.
or something.
It's
It's awesome.
1900 right
Oh my
now.
god.
Heck yeah,
Why are people still watching it? We're
dude.
so far past E3. We know more information about these games. Stop watching it.
Is that a
You
short?
weirdos. No,
Was
No,
that a
it's
that's
short?
like
the
an
full
hour and a half
conference. The full conference has 1900 views.
Of like you reacting to it?
of us reacting
Yes,
to it.
the
Yeah, we
full
did a
That
thing.
live
is
reaction.
fantastic, dude. That is
Which
fantastic.
we don't know how. No idea if it just
I
has
don't know
1900 viewed.
why.
It's
But hold on, but like let's step back from that, right? Like okay, our metric is the fun and the growth and all that stuff, but then you get this other thing that does come in and floor you like Hey, it happened. I don't know why. My work between that and this didn't change, but for some reason it did better.
Mhm.
And I think keeping that
Yeah.
perspective of, okay, you can put in as much work or as not much work, and sometimes the
Mhm.
gain is like completely different. So it's exciting when that stuff happens, but also like keeping it like, yeah, it just happened, right? Like we don't know why the algorithm looked upon us favorably and it gave us those views and like
Yeah, people just
I don't
saw it
know.
for some reason. I think I
Yeah.
still have somebody's comment as my header on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? What is that?
Somebody was like, "Yo, this dude like in the red shirt acts like a 6-year-old."
That's your header? I gotta
That's
look
my
that up right
header
now.
on Twitter, dude. I'm not
It
joking.
yeah.
I have not seen that. Dude, I go to your profile. I have not noticed that. Oh my
I saw
gosh.
it
Yeah,
though,
dude.
and I was like, I have to put this on Twitter. I
Dude,
can't not.
that's the other thing about like comments. Like they're all over the place, but sometimes the positive ones, like there was a positive one that hit me, and I've been thinking about it for like weeks. It's like I try to let the negative ones brush off me, but like sometimes those positive comments, they just continue to floor
They can
you.
stick with you, man.
They stick. Okay, I'm looking at it right now. It is. Am I the only one who finds the guy in the red shirt annoying? He's like a 6-year-old. Chris,
There's the red shirt. There you go.
that is not true, but I do appreciate that.
Well, I responded to it on my personal Rumble Pack comment too. I was like, "Nah, dude, that guy sucks. He's
Well,
the
and like
worst, bro."
guys, it's like, and we know this because we're so close to it. We haven't been creating content forever, right?
No,
And until you make content, you'll never comment that once you create something. Like
oh
that
no,
just goes out the
No.
window. And I think
I can never take it upon myself to look at something that's clearly made with lots of passion and effort and intent
Mhm.
and be like, "Yo, you're super annoying." Like I would never be able to do that to somebody.
and that's what hopefully why it kind of just like washes off you. Like it doesn't actually hit you because you're just like, you don't know. You don't know anything. Like that's like the clear sign.
Well, plus it's just
It's
Halo.
actually yeah, but yeah, I mean, and I got that because I was screaming about the Sea of Thieves and Halo stuff. I mean, and not
Great
joking,
stuff.
I was screaming.
That's a
Um,
TikTok that has
so I mean, it's a
17,000
fair
views.
comment. It's a fair comment. But it's so funny that you say that too, and I think it's why I tend to find most negative comments. I mean, a little humorous because one, because the internet's the way it is, and it's like whatever.
Mhm.
People are gonna say nasty things, and that's just how it goes. And so at least being on the internet is like I'm an old man. I'm almost 29. Like it's fine. Like I've seen how the internet can be, and I can at least kind of put up some mental walls like that way. Um, but being like a musician, content creator. I actually had a YouTube like a content venture before Rumble Pack, before Waypoint,
I've
all of
watched
that
it.
stuff. That it's bad, dude. It's real bad.
It's
It's so bad. Uh,
it's growth. It's growth.
I mean, yeah, it's cool to see how far it's come. But I had no idea what I was doing back then. But I've also had like a short music ventures as well, which is not on the internet, thank God. In anywhere. It never made it online at all. But it's sitting down and realizing like what it takes to write and then record a song or edit and film a video or do all these things is like you can look at something and be like, "Oh, I could do that," and then you sit down and you start to do it, and you go, "This is 10 times more complicated than I ever expected it to be." And within that same sort of mentality of it's like I can never sit down and like shit on something that somebody else has done because they put so much work into it. It's like oftentimes the people that do that are, as you said, it's like they don't know, and I find that the people that are harsher with their criticisms are usually the ones who are not within in any one of those sorts of circles. I've said that it's like most hateful comments tend to come from ignorance of the process.
Mm.
Yes.
Like it's like they just don't know what it is and what goes into all of that, and it's just it's a real fascinating dichotomy there, really.
Dude, that's I said it at the top of the show. We are struggling with reviewing games at this point. Like we have found an appreciation for the craft so much that it's hard to sit here and write things and to talk about things negatively even because I'm just like I couldn't do this for a second. I can't make this game. Who am I to say like X and Y is bad? So we're kind of reassessing to that point of like how do we talk about games for the consumer respectfully? And it comes down to respectfully, because it's like I understand what it's like to make something, it not be received well, and then also like question that whole exchange of,
Yeah.
well, I don't actually care what they think. So, dude, it's
I'll still say something sucks in jest if I'm talking with buddies or whatever. They'll be like, "Yo, I like this song." I'll be like, "Bro, this song sucks."
hold on.
But it's like in a professional sense, the way that I like to approach it. And I don't know if you guys have already discussed this or whatever. Is I'll sit there and be like, if I'm saying that I didn't like something or something to hit, I'll always try and quantify that as like for me, it doesn't hit for me personally, and like these are the reasons it kind of didn't vibe with me and that sort of deal. But it's like I never want to get on the internet like in a professional sense and say that something is bad because it's such a incorrect and uneducated thing to say.
Mhm.
But to be clear, things can suck though still. Like a game
Sure,
can still
I
suck.
think there's
Like
levels to it.
there's levels, and it's a balance to it. And how do you talk about it? How do you say it's an opinion? How do you respectfully critique something that someone you know spent the last 6 years of their life working on? So I think it's this, and again, like I talk about it, it's kind of tentative for us, and it's we're finding our footing when it comes to how do we critique games in a respectful way, but in an honest way. Because
Yeah,
I can't sit here and tell you to buy
Mhm.
X and Y game if I know it's not good. So that's actually why we stopped accepting codes from indie developers. We had a really hard time separating ourselves from the indie developer because the further you go down from the big publishers, the more you're interacting with like, oh, this is the person, this is the creative lead, or this is the one game designer behind the game. He just sent us a code. How
yeah,
do I sit here and say I didn't enjoy this game when I'm like talking to this person? It's unless you have a full formed conversation with them offline, I don't think you can really fairly talk about the game. So we actually stopped. Like we wanted to make sure we set up a separation for us when it came to indie games because we felt such a bias towards them. We wanted to protect them. We wanted to give them positive reviews because we understood that it was difficult. So this whole review process, we love it. It's taught us so much and it's made us appreciate so much. But we're constantly reassessing what is necessary and how do we do it in a respectful way.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's something that when we were first starting Waypoint, was a discussion about us and like doing reviews and all that, and we kind of more came at it from the process, or not the process, but the view of we'll tell people our opinions on it. We won't don't actually want to put a score to it. It would be like, hey, we recommend this, we like this, we didn't like this, kind of that, kind of doing it more our thoughts and having more of a discussion about it rather than a review.
The score is the difference, right? The score is the perception of definitive, like this is definitive when you put a
yeah.
score
Mhm.
on it. So that's what we've been talking about is do we throw out that score? And right now we haven't had the time to really work through that process. But if Bush League throws out the scoring system in the next 6 months, don't be surprised because that is the separation that we found is it's hard to review a game respectfully when you sit there and say, hey, this is a 4. Don't
Right.
buy it. Like, who am I?
Mhm.
Who am I? And like, if you look at the Bush League, we have bushleaguegaming.com/scoreboard. We have a score of like everywhere we've scored something. There's nothing really below a 5 because we just can't bring ourselves to do it. So we're sitting here going,
So
what's
Squadrons
the
was a
point?
5 out of 5 game. What can I say? You know, like I'm.
We did change our scoring metric too halfway through the year of like we're not going to do 5 out of 5 and we're going to do 10 out of 10. So like it's such a nuanced thing, and I hate it because I also sit here and go to IGN and scroll to the bottom of the review and sit there and say, oh, it got an 8. I didn't read why, but it got an 8 and I made my decision now. So we almost are trying to get away from that short form content of this is the number and this is all that you should care about, because I think that's unfortunately what consumers look at right now. That's what Metacritic is. You don't read any of the reviews, but you look at the number. That's not the point, right? That's not that it's way more nuanced than that. So reviewing games, it's difficult. I don't recommend it, but we've also learned so much through the process.
Well, Jacob, I don't think we've come up to about the end of the podcast, but before we wrap up, I think I might know the answer, but what's your most anticipated game for the rest of the year?
You know my answer. Okay, maybe I alluded to it before the show.
feel like now that we're in like the second half of the year though too, we can extend it I think into like first half of next year if you want, just within the next like 12 months
True,
you want to say,
yeah.
or like 6 months.
So I'm a sucker
It's
for anything Star Wars. So we don't know much about Star Wars right now. So I would answer typically a Star Wars game. We know about Lego Star Wars, which looks fantastic, the
That's
Skywalker Saga.
right, though.
Dude, the tipping point for me was, oh, you just opened a galaxy map and you're gonna travel to an open world. I'm in. Like that, you
oh
have me
A,
yeah.
sold.
a, a, a near canonically accurate galaxy map too, I
Dude,
might add.
it is. Now, how are they going to handle timelines? Like, because some of those planets don't exist anymore. I'm sorry, those don't exist in the sequels trilogy. But that's a big one, Star Wars Skywalker Saga. But Halo Infinite, like, uh,
Mm,
me, Ryan, and
yeah.
Nick, like the Bush League crew, are huge Halo fans. We always have been. We haven't been able to do any Halo content because it just hasn't existed since we started. But yeah, dude, that flight was amazing. I talked to Chris about it,
Oh,
and I just got a text from Nick, one of our co-hosts during the episode. He just bought his Series X, so he's ready to go for Halo Infinite, and
I gotta get
that is my
mine.
number one most anticipated game. I've been let down by some games so far of my anticipated list. The first of which being 12 minutes. That was recently, but
I was about to bring out 12
Yeah.
minutes, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was
you have Daisy
yeah,
Ridley, Willem Dafoe, and James
James McAvoy.
Yeah, like, and that's the ending. That's what we get. So get ready for a Bush League episode on that. We're gonna review that one. I actually
Yeah, I
played that with
can't
my
wait to hear
wife.
that. I can't wait to hear that one.
I played that with my wife. My wife doesn't play games, but she used to play point and clicks.
Mhm.
So she was all for playing that with me. And yeah, I love the ebb and flow of I'm excited for this game. It kind of flopped, and Halo Infinite, I genuinely would be absolutely shocked if it flopped at this point. After that flight, after what I've seen, after the year they took to remake that game or improve that game, it has to be good, right? It has to be. It has
It
to be,
cannot
question
be.
mark.
Yeah.
It
So
can't not be.
Cyberpunk was supposed to be
The
good too, right?
multiplayer at least it is 100%. It might be the best we've ever seen in a Halo game. Like I mean, like
Re-
oh my
Release
gosh,
it now. It's ready right now.
just put it
I'll
out.
play that. Yeah, put it out now. So,
I
um,
want it so bad.
hey, hold on. I'm curious though. Album. I want to assume, Chris, for you, that's your number one right now. Is
Easy,
that your most
easy.
anticipated? Album. What about you?
Uh, I will. Halo was, but then today we're recording Thursday the 25th.
6th.
Yeah, 6th, 26th. So it was the day where all the Deathloop impressions came out, and
Oh,
oh boy, that
Deathloop
sounds
looks
like a
sick.
good game. That sounds like a very good game. So
so I haven't seen what it came out recently, but that's a game that I'm like very 50-50 on. Like
if you like,
I love
from
Dishonored.
I
That's
was, and
Annapurna,
that's
right?
what the
Yeah.
no, oh no,
No?
that's
No.
Arcane. People who
Oh,
made
that's
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Dishonored.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
12
it's
minutes was
Dishonored, and like it looks very Dishonored to me, and that's kind of like my hesitation is that I love Dishonored, but it also is never like a game of the year. People are talking about like that could be game of the
yes,
year for them.
yeah, like
That's a
it's
good one,
just
Albub.
yeah. So that's only 2.5 weeks away, September 14th.
Dude,
Ooh, that's exciting.
this fall is just ruining so many things for me. There's so many games coming out,
Rip
and I
my
can't get to
wallet.
all
Fall
of
is
them.
stacked, man. This fall is stacked, and then February of next year is crazy stacked, dude. Like
How did that happen? February 2022. Like,
it all came out at Gamescom where it's like, hey, everything is coming out in February next year, and I'm like, wait, hold on, I only have so much money, bro.
Sifu
that's the
might
slow
have to
time.
push.
That's the slow time of the year.
I need more,
Like,
man. You got
games,
Horizon, you got Sifu,
Pokemon Legends
Saints Row,
Arceus.
Pokemon, Saints Row. Doesn't that
the
Marvel strategy
Marvel,
game come
that's in
out?
March,
Dude,
Is that March? Okay.
but
there
It
still,
at
but
least
there
gives
are
me a
games
couple weeks.
that game. If I XCOM is a game that I don't talk about ever. I play Civ all the time. We have a Civ episode coming out.
Nice.
Turn-based strategy or turn-based tactical. You throw Marvel on top of that, I'm
yes,
like all in, 100%
yes.
in. Like you
And then
have my wallet.
I knew I was gonna get the game. It's like I didn't care what kind of game it was when they had the shot of all of them walking out to the guitar riff from Enter Sandman. I was like, I have to play this. I don't care.
And the dope
So
suits too, like all like the
is
black and
it
gold.
If it's an RTS, if it's a strategy game, if it's a fucking point and click, I don't care what it is. I gotta play this. So
You you don't design Wolverine like that, and I don't play it. Like
oh,
Wolverine looks pure
Mhm.
Wolverine to me, and I would say some of the suits, I'm like, Iron Man looks weird, Captain America looks weird, but these other like tertiary characters, they look dope. And
yeah, like Blade and Ghost Runner and I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, like Wolverine, they all look so good, and I love that we're finally like getting like back away from the sort of like n- is
Movie
but
tie-in
isn't based
games.
on the MCU like kind of stuff. Like I loved Ultimate Alliance 3. It was really really great. Avengers is Avengers.
it's
Um
Avengers.
it's something.
It's there. They got cool skins.
And so it's like it's cool seeing the X-Men again, or at least Wolverine in this case. But it's like, nah, we're gonna. This is about like demons and hell and resurrection and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, pull out the dark shit again, man. I miss that sort of thing. We haven't
You
seen that
almost
in
have to
Marvel games in a long time.
you have to separate yourself from the MCU in drastic ways like this now, because one problem with Avengers is that it's so close to modern and the MCU that it's like you're constantly comparing it to it, right? The skins, the story, and it does it a disservice. When you do something like vampires and demons and whatever it is, like this is not MCU. Your standards are now at a different place, and I think that game is gonna be fantastic. I love Firaxis. I love strat. I love turn-based
Mhm.
games, and that was a shocker.
XCOM is
Like that came out
XCOM
of.
is
I know
great.
Jeff Grubb's been talking about that game for some time now, and I'm stoked. I'm so ready
Literally,
for it.
if it plays exactly like XCOM but with Marvel characters, it'll be perfect. Like that's
That's
really
it.
all
Yeah.
I need. I don't care if
Yeah.
the gameplay doesn't change at all.
They did announce there's no permadeath, and I will say that's pretty important to XCOM. But I understand there's probably
It
story
makes
beats that
sense.
you have to keep everybody alive. I just hope there's like
But it's also
genuine
probably a Marvel thing though
consequences.
too. They're like, hey, you can't let Wolverine die. like you can't do that.
How do you kill
I
Wolverine,
assume
really?
that's probably yeah, also Wolverine was a bad example, but it's like we're not gonna let you like intentionally murder Captain America or something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that feels like a Marvel
Mm.
decision.
I totally agree. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's man, it's I think we can all agree that the next 6 months of games are just nuts. Like absolutely nuts. Let's go. I'm ready for it.
Can't wait.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a blast. So before we go, tell people where they can find you.
Again, it was a blast being here. Love talking to you too. Just search Busch League Gaming wherever you can. We don't have a custom YouTube URL. We've been working towards that. It's you got to get 100 subs for it. We're about
Come on, people.
21
eight.
away. Get on there.
20, is that where we're 20? We're 21
There's
away.
79 subscribers right now.
Hey, this is the tipping point. You Waypoint listeners, hit us up. Come on over. We talked some games. We have these two on. We'll continue to have Waypoint people on. But
BUSCH.
BUSCH. Oh yeah, good clarifier. There's a C in there. But yeah, BUSCH, Busch League Gaming, anywhere you consume content, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. There's also a website, bushleaguegaming.com. We actually do write some reviews sometimes. We write blog posts. And yeah, there's actually merch too. We got some merch out there. Chris has a
Man,
hat.
I should have worn my hat.
Albert, do
Oh
you have anything?
no.
I got the hat too as well.
You
I
have
think
a
that's
hat
back
too. I
at
was gonna say we got you a hat too.
yeah.
So yeah, there's some merch out there. It breaks even. We don't make money off it. It's just more for people to have a hat. But yeah, just search Busch League Gaming anywhere you consume things.
Again, this was a blast. A great return to the grind. So appreciate it so much, man.
Return to the grind. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And thank you all for watching. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, but more importantly, go subscribe to Busch League Gaming. That's so close to the custom URL. And we will see
Hit
you
us up.
at the next waypoint.